Oh yeah, yeah. It's about the same time that we start rehearsals for the tour. I have to look. Yeah, about April 18th or so.
Awesome, man. And like, I'm curious of the early beginnings with you guys because I've grown up listening to you guys a bunch and all that stuff. Unfortunately, I've never gotten to see you live, which would be
Oh,
amazing.
okay. Are you based out
Uh,
of where are you based out of?
Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada.
Oh, okay. Well, we played Edmonton a couple times, but yeah, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't get to come up there as often as I'd like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can imagine it's like it probably just has to do with I don't know the demand, right? Like kind of where you're playing or who you're playing with, maybe, or how's that all work?
Man, because I'm trying to think of like we played there certainly with All Time Low. I think mostly when we've played there, it's been supporting. So
Yeah.
yeah, to your, it's kind of like I don't know if we've headlined in Edmonton. And honestly, I'm trying to remember. I feel like one of the times it was clear in my mind that we played a bar. I think it was in Edmonton, and it was during maybe this late spring or early summer, like finishing up hockey season, and everyone was stoked. I think the Oilers had gone pretty far, so
Oh, this makes
everyone
me
was.
think it was like 2006 because that's when we went to like the finals. Maybe it was around then.
It wasn't that long ago. It was like
Oh, okay.
2012 or 2013 or so, maybe. Maybe it wasn't the Stanley Cup exactly, but I just remember ever since then I've had a soft spot in my heart for the Oilers, and I'm not kidding because I just
That's
remember seeing
awesome.
pennants all around for them, or like the flag, whatever they're called, banners or whatever for them all around. I was like, that's pretty neat, and it was kind of like cool to be up there because we were doing a cross Canada tour with All Time Low, and it was just like kind of this is the first time really doing that. I don't know. It was really special. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, they definitely the city goes hard for the Oilers, that's for sure. And
I'm
we
sure.
definitely love them, so that's cool that you dig it.
Good.
Are you kind of like are you a big sports guy then too, or?
Oh, it's funny. As I get older, I think I do. I just enjoy when I was a kid, like when I was a teenager, and certainly the early beginnings of this band. Definitely, when I was a kid, teenager, early start of this band, I did not care about sports. I was not into sports at all. I went to a school that was associated closely with Florida State University, and then I went to Florida State University for a year before dropping out for Mayday Parade. And then during that entire time, I didn't go to a single football game or a basketball game or whatever. I did not care a lick about sports. And then as I've gotten older, certainly in my mid to late 20s, and then now in my late 30s, I'm like super into Florida State and into professional. I just enjoy watching something that's not the news or not associated with music, just something that I can totally. I don't really know much about, and I can kind of zone out. I'm excited that baseball's starting up. Funny enough, my girlfriend got me into NASCAR, so
Oh,
I'm really into watching that every Sunday, and yeah.
nice. Yeah, that sounds yeah, interesting. I've never gotten into NASCAR. Like that's
Dude, I didn't think I had that in me to be interested at all in
yeah.
NASCAR, but I started watching it with her, and then then getting attached to certain drivers, and then kind of understanding the strategy a little bit, and then yeah, and then it's like, oh, okay, now this kind of all starts to make sense, and then it's very exciting. Yeah,
Yeah. No, that's sweet, man. And then so what were you taking when you went to Florida University there?
Florida State.
Yeah.
God, this is 20 years ago, so I was taking. I think I was. I remember. I was going for communications.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry, not communication. Um, Golly, marketing. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
I
marketing,
only
nice.
I only went for 2 semesters and dropped out, so I hardly got into anything that passed my associates.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, Mayday Parade, take priority, right?
Yeah, I was 18 and 19, I guess, at that point, and we had it was kind of like, well, I could try to do online schooling and try to kind of make both work, but it just wouldn't, I don't know. My parents were just like, either do one or the other.
Oh
Don't
yeah.
don't be stupid and try to half-ass both. Just whole ass one or the other, I guess. And so,
Yeah.
um, and they were very supportive and helped me kind of make that decision. And I mean, I kind of was leaning that way anyway. I was very unhappy in school, and with that whole, I was working a really shitty job, and
Mm.
just not stoked on where my life was going at that. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh shit, yeah, I have this opportunity to tour, to follow Warped Tour with my friends and make music and sell CDs, and kind of like you could start to see the input equals output kind of thing, where the amount of energy and devotion and whatever passion or just energy that I put into this project, I could see an immediate return through, fans coming out to shows, or just straight up enjoying the music, enjoying and believing in something that I'm doing, rather than working at, a shitty retail job, going to school where I don't really like, jumping through hoops, basically. And this just kind of like, I was inspired certainly by the DIY ethic that like Brooks, Derek, and Cabbage had. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it just felt very much like the right choice.
Nice. Yeah, obviously it was. And I'm curious, when you were growing up, when did you like really start to get into music, like playing it?
Mhm. Probably when I was like 12 to 13, that's when I feel like that's generally like the age, right? For people to kind of like have their musical awakening, where they're like not just kind of listening to music that their parents listen to, they're kind of finding their own identity with music. So now, I grew up with music. My parent, my mother loves like the Beatles and 60s and 70s rock, and my dad loved like classical music. And so in my house, and neither one of them are musically inclined other than being fans of it. But in my house growing up, we'd listen to one or the other. And so I was, at an early age, like I loved listening to music. And then I guess when I was like 12 or 13 is when I was like, wanted to start playing guitar, just because I felt like that's what teenagers did, and kind of like appealed to me. And then really like through, I think like the first band that I was really into was Oasis. And that was the band that kind of like turned everything on for me, of like where it was more central to my identity, music was, and more that I was more interested in making music like Oasis. And then it was like Led Zeppelin. Once I found Led Zeppelin, that's when I was like, oh shit, I want to be a guitar player, and I want to be like Jimmy Page. I want to be Jimmy Page,
Yeah.
And then after that, it was like finding emo music, finding Taking Back Sunday and Brand New and Dashboard Confessional. That's when that's when I was like, this is the genre that I really love and relate to, and like Sum 41, or like that speaks to me. And so yeah.
No, that's awesome. Because yeah, like you said, I think that is the age, and because that was the same with me. That's when I started playing guitar
Mhm.
too and everything. And yeah, I was like Blink, Sum 41, all those guys. And then like, did you take lessons, or are you like self-taught? Did you just kind of teach yourself how to play everything?
Yeah, so I think about this a lot, because I tried to teach for a little bit. I know Brooks teaches, and we talk about this a lot. And I've taken lessons like with singing and other things after the as I've gotten older. So I think about this a lot. But no, when I was a kid, I took lessons to like learn the rudiments, I guess, of guitar, like the beginning things of like what a chord is, how to play. I guess like what a slide, like to slide, or like a hammer on pull off, those kinds of like initial technical aspects of playing guitar, I learned those through teachers, friends or peers of mine that were older that played guitar. And I took like some lessons, but I didn't really like learn. I don't really remember being taught much. So, but then after that, I was pretty much like, I guess, self-taught, which is shocking to me. I think about now because I don't understand how anyone like sticks with an instrument like for very long, because I remember a period of time, like, it felt like 5 to 7 years of just sucking relentlessly at guitar and just being so bad.
Yeah.
It's a wonder that I like pushed through that and kept with it. And then eventually like was passable to play in a band. I guess that's really it, is that what happens for people is that they're like, at least for me, is what it was like got to a level where I could play in a band and to some degree. And then it's like, okay, it kind of starts to, I guess, what's the word, like cycle back on itself, where you're seeing the reward of playing. And then, so you want to practice and actually get better at it. And then that in turn, being better puts you in a better position to play, more. And so I guess that's what happened. But yeah, I think about that now because I've tried to pick up other instruments and had some success, but waiting through that period of time of like, God, I hear how I want to sound. I hear what appeals to me, but I can't quite get to that level.
Yeah. I think it's interesting when you pick up stuff like that, even an instrument, that one you need to really put in the hours, right? It's not like, you're even when you're trying to just like say learn riffs or songs from other artists, you just when you're not able to do it, it bothers you. And nowadays it's like you play a video game, beat a level. Oh, I got my gratification. I'm good.
Yes. Yeah, but you're right. Like I think that's like the crucial thing, that is learning riffs, learning like basic, like learning how to play a song. In fact, Brooks and I talk about this a lot when we talk about teaching, how I've really tried to value that. And unfortunately, I feel like in my own practice, like when I'm practicing guitar, I don't do that enough. Like I don't actually play like music. I focus on the technical aspects of playing, not so much that like creation of music, or not just creation, but the mimicking of other people playing music. Because I'm really interested in that too, of how like that early stage of playing where you're like developing your chops or whatever, and you're kind of like a sponge for all of your influences, learning their riffs, learning how to play. I remember too being like, I didn't give a shit about sounding like an original musician. I didn't care at all. I literally just wanted to sound like Jimmy Page, or I wanted to sound like Angus Young or something like that. And I did not care about anything else. And then I find it so funny where I feel like all those kind of influences eventually wedded together to form my own style. And then to now where I'm like, yeah, actually, I would much rather I appreciate my uniqueness and the fact that and it's funny too, because I think about it in the sense of like, I was never able to, I'm sure you experienced this as a guitarist, like as much as you wanted to sound like other people, you never could actually get to that. You get the right equipment even, and you get all this stuff, but you never could quite get it right. However, what you did play was like an iteration of that developed your own style. And when you learn about other musicians, like I love Eddie Van Halen, and learning like, oh, he loved Eric Clapton and other players, and all he was doing was kind of mimicking them, or like Jimmy Page, trying to mimic them. And he kind of approximated what they were doing. And then, but he's a virtuoso and developed his own unique style that we all emulate.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I think about it now. Yeah, we totally are sponges. We try to mimic it, but it just becomes our own thing. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
guitar players I'll see where, they'll use their thumb a lot on the top
Yeah.
of the neck, and I'm like, I've never ever been able to do
Oh
that.
yeah.
I'm
I
like,
know.
I've never used my thumb.
Yeah, that's what's it's the most frustrating and rewarding thing about playing guitar, and I assume it's with every instrument, is that it feels like there's a never ending well of things that you could do, and you're like, shit, I didn't think about that. Like I
Yeah.
want to do that. And you feel like you can master one element of the guitar, but then there's, infinite amounts of other, like being percussive with an acoustic guitar, I still can't sweet pick. I'm
I wish
38
I
and
could. I wish I could.
I've been playing since I was 13 and I still can't do that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's the one thing you've probably had this too, like when you were playing in bands at the beginning and stuff too. But I've had it where, like you said, you try and be like these artists that you're watching, but after you play some shows and stuff, I've had people they're like, I love the way you like play the guitar, like your stage presence, just how you do it, and it's just like that makes you go, oh wow, like I have my own thing, like this is what I
Oh
should
no,
just focus on.
of
Like it's
course.
so
Yeah. I mean
rewarding.
it's very rewarding for sure. And I feel like with age, at least it took me time to kind of be more secure in that sense of like, it's secure in my playing and secure in my sense of like, well, maybe I'm not able to do the things that I wish that I could do. But I can do what I can. And I feel like it speaks to me. What I play speaks to me. And that's at a certain point that has to be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny I was looking Instagram today, and I follow a lot of guitar. I get targeted with a lot of guitar stuff, and yeah, same. Like see someone ripping guitar this morning. I'm like, damn, I wish I could do that. And you feel like that. Social media certainly does. It can be great for like finding cool tips and tricks, but it can also be the endless comparison kind of thing.
Yeah, until you like really sit back and go like, okay, I just gotta not do that. It's
Yeah.
hard though when you're consistently
Oh
seeing it
yeah.
all the time,
Oh yeah.
and it makes like I miss those days. Like I guess at the beginning of it, where there wasn't so much that, right? Like it was just,
Yeah.
you know, you with your friends posting stuff, even music like MySpace, right? Man, that was
Oh
the
yeah.
best. I miss those
Yeah, I mean,
days.
with Mayday, like that's where I found out about Mayday or about MySpace through the other guys in the band. Like I had never heard of that social media site, and then yeah, we were practicing, or like I think we were in separate bands. We were practicing when Derek and Brooks and Gabby were in a band called Defining Moment, and I remember talking to them, and they were like, "Yeah, we use MySpace," and I was like, "I have no idea what that is." you of course now like we have Facebook and everything else, TikTok, and like
Yeah, no, it's not bad. And I get like you guys have been around a long time. I'm kind of curious, how have you like grown with like how music has gone with like the streaming, there's no more CDs really now. You got to kind of pivot a little bit, right? Like how have you guys kind of dealt with all that over the years?
I feel like we were lucky enough to lucky and cursed in a way, because it's funny, like now we tour with say bands like Simple Plan or Yellow Card, and both of them had tremendous success before streaming was really killed CD sales. So like to me, they're like true rock stars. Like they got
Mhm.
to enjoy actual like rock star shit.
Yeah.
Mayday Parade came up when that was pretty much gone. Now the other side of that is I don't think we would have been as successful as we were and are if it weren't for streaming. Like
Mhm.
MySpace was the pivotal thing that kind of helped promote this band. And so Mayday Parade has always had this kind of view of it where um, social media enabled like that DIY element and like the guerrilla marketing kind of thing that that we used early on. Because early on we were like, we don't want to be on a label, or we don't really care to be on a label. We see a model, we see a way to be self-sustaining, to fund our own music and to make the music that we want without having to be under the thumb of some other entity that has clout or has, leverage on us. So that was really, really important. And the internet enabled that. So I think that has always informed, and this is in the post Napster world too, like people were illegally downloading music then. I was,
Yeah.
So, like guilty of it too. So, I think that kind of helped inform the view of like, well, this isn't all bad. It's not all great. I mean, yeah, because the other side of it is that it's really not as profitable, or at least it's funny to see the change, right? That it was back before the 2000s, there was substantially more money in CD sales and actually selling your music, versus touring was kind of a promotional piece for the product, which was the CD or the music itself. Now, after the streaming world, it's kind of the opposite, where the music itself is more of a promotional tool for the touring side to be able to be a live act that, an entertainment element that people want to see. And so the burden is shifted to where you now have to put on like a show that is worthy of people coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So I think we've seen that and kind of adapted, but I mean, luckily we wanted to play shows, and that's what I think we kind of we were kind of had that in mind, make the CD so that you can tour off of it, play the shows, try to get the shows to be as big as you can, get as many fans as you can. Nowadays, it's even more different, I guess, because streaming is so prevalent that I always think about, like when you're asking this, the first thing that I immediately think of is how different it is. I'm interested in how we listen to music in such a different way than we did back when I was a kid. And it's progressed even through like the iPod generation, where back when I was a kid, you had a CD, or shit, I grew up with tapes too. So, but you had CDs, like I would have to buy, if I was interested in an artist, if I wanted to listen to Fat Lip, I'd have to buy the Sum 41 album. Yeah. I'd have to go to like Sam Goody or Borders or wherever and buy the actual album. And then I was stuck with it, better or worse.
Hoping it's going to be good. Yeah.
Hope the whole thing is good and not just the one track. And then you got to carry around a CD, 15, 20, 25 CDs in your Walkman or whatever. And then, but what was really nice about that was that you became intimately familiar with those CDs. So you were kind of forced to listen to the whole thing, or at least kind of as much as you could. Yeah. And because you had limited options, and even was the case for the iPod, where you had more, but it was still limited. And I always think about like, I even miss the iPod, where I would have like, I'd forget about a song or band or whatever, and then just scroll through my catalog, whatever, my library, I guess, and find it. Yeah. Now with Spotify, it's great because you can find new artists, but it's difficult to, I don't know. I struggle. I try to make playlists and keep track. I'm like obsessive about hoarding and cataloging things that I like enjoy so I don't forget them if it's one-off songs or artists or whatever, because I'm so scared I'll forget it. Like it's no longer the case. I can just download it and have this thing. I mean, I could, I guess, but it's like I don't do that at all. I don't know people that like do that, I guess, but
Yeah, I do miss those. It was nice too. I always liked looking through the little like liner notes, the booklets of the CDs too, seeing like all the cool stuff in there. That was always fun. I guess like they do that with vinyl now too, but I don't know. It was a little it was a little more compact, you know.
Yeah. Well, vinyl is a nice, I appreciate that because vinyl is a nice kind of outlet for all of the things that like the artistry side of like you're making album art, you're making, this content, this visual element to complement the music. And that's still really important and still really valued. Not to mention, it is nice when there is an album that you really love to have like the actual, cool vinyl of it, like a actual physical. People want a physical piece of something that they love.
Yeah, exactly. And like you guys, out of all the stuff, you got the new album coming out. I'm curious with the new one when you guys were recording it. Because, like, did you guys go in there wanting to try a few different things than you have before on other albums, or how did you kind of go into this one, writing it?
Usually, in the past, I'd say decade or so, we've kind of gone in with the same generally we do the same thing where everyone in the band writes music, and we all will write songs, and then before we go into the studio, we present all those songs to each other. And as a band, we kind of sit and listen through everything and then pick what we enjoy. And that's been generally the way that we've done things. And I think the counter thought is like, well, we miss out on like a lot of times there's not like a cohesive, like, I don't know, theme or motif or whatever running through this music. It's more just like, well, these are the 7, 8, 10 songs that we all think are the best of the batch that we all can kind of agree on, or like the top whatever. Whereas back in the day, like with Lesson, self-titled, Anywhere But Here, it was more like, well, these were 15 songs that we have.
Okay.
And, we could drop 3 or whatever, but 15, this is it. But we've all become way more involved in writing, and just everyone can pump out music. I'm always amazed. We end up having like 25 to 30 songs in a batch that we have to pick 7 from, and it becomes impossible. And
I was going to say, it must be tough when you have that many songs.
Oh yeah, it is. And it's difficult, but I think it's good. I mean, this round is different because we're releasing three different like parts to this album, and we're recording each part at its own time. So,
cool.
So like we're not each recording opportunity is another time to kind of get another batch of songs that we can kind of sort through and pick out the ones that we want to do. So it's different because, before we would say like for Sunnyland or something, or for What It Means to Fall Apart, we would go into the studio with a whole bunch of songs and have to pick, 13 or however many. Now it's like, well, we're going to pick 7 that we like of this batch. And then the next time we'll pick another 7 of new songs that are written, So hopefully I guess at the end of it, we'll release, I don't know how many, over 20 songs, but have written, I don't know, 40 or 50
Jeez.
total, something like that. Yeah.
And how long have you guys worked on that album for then? If you've kind of done it that way.
Oh, I guess it's a process that takes maybe 2 years or so, but like we recorded what we're about to release. We recorded that like almost a year ago.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
So it really, I don't know. And with songs, it's funny too, because like you may have written something or like started working on a song years ago, but didn't actually like finish it until before the studio time, or you wrote it right before, like a week or two before going into the studio. It varies. Like it's hard, like I do love the stories of songs that were like either passed up for one album and then made it on another album, or that the idea was started like years ago and then it went through different iterations, and then finally whoever the writer kind of like figured out what works. And I've had that experience where I've been stuck on a song and worked on something for a while, and then finally got to a point where I was happy with it and finished it and then presented it. And then it's funny, you go through like that whole process again, the whole like writing process, but just now with 4 other people and figuring out like how the parts work and how, if the tempo's right, if the key's right, if the lyrics are right, if maybe the melody needs to change here or whatever. It can be a grueling process.
Yeah, I've had that too, where I've had like an idea for a song or a riff or a verse or something. I've had it like just sit on the back burner for like 2 or 3 years, and then it'll eventually just works its way in, and you're like, okay, it's finally done.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's hard to like let go in that instance. I find to be like, you'll start working on something and be like, man, I hear this has a lot of potential and I'm really excited about this thing. And so you start working on it in your mind. You're like, yeah, I should be able to finish this pretty quickly. And then you can't. And then you I'm like, all right, have to come to terms with the fact that it very well may be the case that I won't be able to finish this thing for years, that I'll just have to, maybe I'll have to pick it up every now and then and with a new season of my life and see if I can hear something different that changes it. And then all of a sudden, the stars align in just the right way. And it's now, it works out. Other times it's like, no, that's a cool chorus or cool like riff, but it's just right now it can only exist as that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's interesting that way. And out of the songs that you've released so far for Sweet, which are great, by the way, is there any that say, like, besides the ones that have come out, one that's like your favorite on there that you're pretty excited for everyone to hear once it's out?
Yeah, I'm excited for Who's Laughing Now to be released. That's one that I wrote, and it's one that I think is different for us. I don't know if you've heard if they sent you anything, but it's a song that's a bit different, but I think is kind of something within our wheelhouse. Like it's influent, like talking about Blink-182 or Sum 41. It's influenced by that, and I feel like we don't really like do that much, like especially, I don't know, in our post like Monsters in the Closet era. I feel like Mayday Parade has been more like, if we experiment, it's in different genres. This is more like, let's try to do this genre that we love. It's a genre that we grew up doing and that we were immersed in, but we've never really like actually tried to do.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited for that song. I'm excited to see the reaction, and I hope it's good. But it's kind of like, so it's exciting, but it's also scary because I don't know. We've like for Black Lines, Derek screamed a lot on that, and that was definitely, we enjoyed harder music and viewed ourselves as a harder band, in fact, and I think that came out in that album. However, I don't think our fans really responded well to that. I don't think they really enjoyed that. So as much as we liked it, I don't know if they did. So we'll see. I'm scared. I'm scared that it'll be the same case with this song, but I'm hopeful that it'll be like, I guess, but in another way, I guess I'd rather people hate it than just be like, meh, you know.
Yeah, for sure. That kind of makes me ask this question then too, because out of all the albums, like you said, maybe some fans didn't like that, but are there ones to you like out of all your albums, which one to you do you feel is like a sleeper album that people kind of just like let it slip by? They don't like, maybe they didn't listen to it much or give it too much of a chance.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think Black Lines is my favorite of our records. It's I don't know. I feel like it's special for a lot of reasons, I guess. I think it was really cool because kind of like what I was saying before about how we write songs. That was one where we did that. We kind of all wrote whatever, uh, wrote songs that we were, yeah, just in like our own vacuums, and then came together and worked on this album together, which was one of the last times that we like wrote together, like actually got together at a, not a, in this instance, we used to do it at a beach house in Florida, but this time we were at like a cabin in Florida and got together and like wrote, worked on, kind of practiced the music together, hashed out a lot of things together, and then went to the studio to record it. It's one of the last times we've done that. But I feel like it was interesting because we didn't communicate really like, hey, we're going to write a heavy album or we're going to go have a darker album. It just sort of happened. And it was kind of like we were all in alignment. We were all kind of in agreement that we wanted to do this, especially coming after Monsters in the Closet, which felt like kind of like a part two for our self-titled album. It felt like we were kind of going through the motions, whereas Black Lines was like kind of like our artistic endeavor to try and break away from that. So it was really exciting, and we went with a different producer, and just it was a really exciting time for the band and really exciting creative time. And I feel like the music that we made was like, I think it's really good, and it has a cool vibe to it. Like going through for the tour that we're about to do, the tour that we're about to go on is our 20-year celebration as a band. So we're playing a lot of music from all of our albums. So recently I was listening to songs from Black Lines because I don't really listen to it that much. And yeah, I'm still like, damn, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so exciting to me and so interesting. And I think it showcases a lot of talent for like Derek, for his ability to emote with his voice and his songwriting ability. And plus, like the shit that we did, I just feel like we hadn't done. It's just exciting, and I feel like, I mean, I sort of get why fans don't like it, but I also don't.
Yeah, I can hear you there. Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's subjective. Like, especially you see it a lot in, say, like, especially the emo pop punk scene. So many bands have released an album, and then especially with social media, you just see people just lose it on a certain album. Yeah. They're like, "What is this?" And it's like, calm down.
Yeah,
it's not the worst.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know the amount of pain and the scrutinizing and just the attention to detail that this band goes through. And like, we overthink every single aspect of the music. And so I can be confident and rest assured in that maybe fans don't like the music, and that's fine. But we certainly did our job to try to make it as good as we possibly could. Like we never went into it and we're like, like lazy about it, because I see the amount of arguing and the amount of, I can't figure out the right way to say this, but the scrutinizing every detail.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting time for sure with people because, like I said, you didn't really see that too much before social media became like a huge thing, and now
Well,
everyone
I
like
mean,
gives their own reviews and all this stuff, right?
yeah, I don't know if it's the amount of options that people have, or yeah, I think generally, I think with social media, there's like a democratization of just of discourse. I mean, there's no longer is there a gatekeeper for
Mhm.
an authority figure telling you what good music is. And like going back to the earlier point, in a lot of ways, Mayday Parade benefited from that. I think back at the time of the real rock star, there was radio was such an important gatekeeper for who you could listen to. And so the same was true of labels. So there were these institutions that filtered music to the consumer. Now the consumer has immediate access, not in a crazy way, not just to consume, but to create. So there's the world is just inundated with content, and I don't know, and it's the loop between creator and what's being and critic is just destroyed. So it's all of it is the same. It's the wild time, I guess. And funny enough, it's weird being in a position. It's weird growing older and being somewhat disconnected from that, and somewhat insulated from it, but also not, because Mayday Parade also existed in this weird time bubble where I feel like we're not we're not subject to a lot of those, like the fly by night kind of like just TikTok. We're not a TikTok sensation. You know what I mean? We're not. That's not us. But we're also missed the train on being like a radio rock band or like a huge radio success band. We're in this weird sweet spot where I would think that we're kind of a staple of an emo genre, an emo early 2000s or mid 2000s emo movement. But
Yeah.
so we're kind of like encapsulated in this interesting time of music, which to me feels like a really good sweet spot where we're not, because I think bands that came later are like victims of that democratization of social media, where they're kind of like, people like just as quickly as they blow up, people quickly forget about them. And they're
Fair
not part of
enough.
a cohesive like movement of music either, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's kind of like with the When We Were Young Fest, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like you just any of those bands listening there, you're like, yeah, that was all right pretty much at the same time. That was the whole thing right there. Which is
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
because anyone that goes to that, it's like that's my childhood right there. That's like my teenage
You
years.
been? Have you been
Yeah.
able to go?
Unfortunately, no. The
No.
just the amount of money I would have to do to like get a hotel, travel there. I'm just like, damn it, I
Yeah.
would love to do it.
Yeah. They don't make it easy. I know. I mean, it's, with the hotels and like Ubering around everywhere. I don't know
Yeah.
how expensive it is to fly from Edmonton to Las Vegas, but
It depends. And then the flights are just so iffy with like cancellations and stuff these days too. Like it's just a gong show. One day I will make it there.
yeah. Well, hopefully we
And
can. I would love for Mayday Parade to do another Trans Canada tour. Really.
oh dude, I'd be there so fast. So
I
I'll
mean,
keep an eye out for that.
I haven't been there in like the dead of winter, but I feel like the summers are just awesome, right? So
Yeah, you wouldn't want to come here in the dead of winter. It's pretty cold.
I've
The
heard.
the minus 40 degrees Celsius is, it's not fun.
Yeah, I hear
Especially
you.
I guess, from Florida, you're not used to that.
No, not used to. I live in Tennessee now, but it's still not quite as cold as Edmonton.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, a couple more questions for you before I let you go, man.
Yeah.
Like we're saying with the new music, these new bands, like are there any new artists or bands with that are kind of coming into the scene that you're pretty excited about or like listen to a lot?
I'd have to, once again, going back to it, I'd have to go through my Spotify
Yeah.
to find like new artists, like especially new artists of our scene that I think are like really good. I mean, a lot of times, like I hear about it through the same, like I guess how everyone hears about music through Instagram, like background music or like TikTok, or if I'm in a store or something, or just randomly I'll hear wherever, I don't know. Or like I don't really, every now and then I'll go through like playlists and stuff. So, but generally the way I find out about new bands that are in this scene is through when we tour with them, like through Sad Summer.
Nice.
Or they're opening a tour or whatever. And I don't know. There's nothing like that I can think of off of the top of my head. The last thing that I listened to that I'm like was excited about was, and this is so, I feel like kind of crazy, like not, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of controversial, I think, but I stand by it and I don't care what people think. But so, is it Escape the Fate or Ronnie Radke? Like he released a record like
Falling
last
Down in
year.
Reverse?
Falling in Reverse, yeah.
Falling in Reverse, yeah. Yeah, I can see what you mean. It's controversial just because of him.
He's a bit controversial. However, I've seen him play innumerable times on Warped Tour. We've always, whenever we were doing Warped Tour, he would do Warped Tour. And he is an insane singer. So I've always known that aspect of that. He is like legit and such a good singer, like rock singer, but then also like a really good screamer. And he can scream in many, many different ways. And he's also started to he also raps a lot too. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he does it now, like pretty convincingly. Like I don't know, as me, I find it, I'm like, yeah, it sounds pretty good to me. And anyway, his new record, he has a song called Prologue, and I'm like, it's so good to me. He's not like a new artist, but it's like really, it's cool to see. And this guy that is immensely talented, whatever his personal life and his public persona may be one thing, but at the same time too, I'm also kind of drawn to just rock star personalities. He is like an insane frontman, like both literally and figuratively, but he is a really good frontman. He's good at being captivating. So it's just so cool to see that. And then also like he's in a huge band. Falling in Reverse is a huge band. And he's kind of killing his craft, and it's awesome to see that. And everything's kind of working together. He has Jelly Roll, who is like I'm sure you know Jelly Roll, like the huge country artist, being featured on one of his songs. So it's like cool to see this thing kind of coming together, like all the elements kind of working together to where I feel like he's kind of unstoppable, or it's kind of growing. And I think that's cool to see. And then also too, like there's an element of like, as much as he's controversial, I think he does it to himself. He's kind of isolates himself from like, he's not a team player, I think, with a lot of institutions that he could benefit from. Yeah. So like getting kicked off of shows or festivals, I'm sure. However, despite all that, he's still kind of killing it. So it's kind of cool to see someone just wave a middle finger and be themselves, be authentic, be super talented, be that rock star, and be successful.
Yeah, I think that it like works in his favor as well. Like just his personality and stuff. So it just, he has nothing to worry about in the sense of he's going to get the pop. He's going to get people just checking out his music. He's still going to remain like popular with that. And yeah, like you said, he kind of just doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit. He's just like, I'm just going to do me.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so it's refreshing to see that, especially like being on the other side of it, where I'm like, we're very careful with our image and being appeasing, whatever entity, promoters, whoever, which I think is good. Like, I'm happy that we do that. I don't think that we should not do that, but it's kind of cool it's like a bit refreshing to see like, okay, that's how he does it. Cool. Good for him.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a good answer. I like that one. like you said, a little controversial, I guess, to some people, but whatever.
I don't know. I feel like Mayday Parade. I'm sure our fans are not. I don't know how they feel about it, but yeah.
No, it's all good. And then I'm curious too, like with you guys doing your tour here, when you guys are on tour, what do you do besides like after the show, before the show? Like, are you guys just kind of, do you usually all just hang out together most of the time? Are you playing video games, watching movies? You guys do your own thing? What do you guys usually do on tour?
Yeah, all that. I mean, generally, like for me, exercising is important to me. So I try to go to a gym every day or, every other day or so. It's nice to get off site to like just kind of have some my own time to go do something different.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like kind of for me, I'm like Pat from the Main said this, or I attributed it to him. He made a point somewhere like that when you start touring a lot, you realize that it's no longer like a vacation or like it's no longer like the break from your normal life that it is your normal life. And that kind of opened my eyes to be like, yeah, I need to adapt my life to this other reality so that I can kind of carry out like the routines, the things that are important to me, and not just like let those sit by the wayside while I just eat whatever, eat like shit and live like kind of a shitty lifestyle. Because you certainly can do that. It feels like kind of, what is it, Arrested Development? It feels kind of like you can be 14 years old, like just eating pizza every day while playing video games. You can 100% do that.
Yeah.
But and have no one complain to you about that. But it's like, that's not a way to live. Oh, especially when you're in your late 30s,
That's fair.
But yeah, we hang out. I mean, we hang out a lot. We try not to hang out a lot. It's a good mix of that.
Nice, man. That's awesome. And before I let you go, I just want to say thanks again for doing this, man. I'm super excited for the new album, Sweet. Can't wait for that, especially the song that you said you're excited for. The way you described it, I'm super excited for that one now.
Very good. Yeah. I hope you enjoy it. And if you don't, that's fine too. No,
that's fine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and before I let you go, if you want to just let anyone know about the new album, the tour you guys are going to be doing, whatever else you got going on.
Yeah, I mean, you can, like I said, we're doing our 20-year anniversary tour, 20-year of being a band tour. We're pretty much going everywhere in North America or in the United States. Unfortunately, not Canada, other than Toronto. So that's a bit of a drive, bit of a trek for those in Edmonton. But you can get tickets for that at maydayparade.com. Releasing an album called Sweet. It's part of a trilogy. There will be 2 other parts to it. And you will, if you follow Mayday Parade or anyone in the band, you will see plenty about that. So, yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, again, thanks, man. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, man. You too. Take care.
Appreciate it, Alex.